Welcome to Self-Publishing with Dale L. Roberts, and today it is my pleasure in the studio, the one, the only, Jason Bracht from jasonbracht.com, as well as
hustleproject.org. That's pretty much where you're going to find me right now is hustleproject.org. So kind of put the jasonbracht.com thing on ice for a little bit. So that's kind of my main hangout, if you will. A lot of my content.
Is jasonbracht.com available anymore?
I think I still own the rights to it. It's just like, I don't know. I've kind of experimented a little bit about keeping it on that domain versus that domain, and just for unity, I have the group, the free Facebook group that you can check out. So it's just like, let me put everything under one umbrella. When I first started jasonbracht.com, I had no clue what I was doing, so there's a lot of stuff on there that I just, whatever. So just changing it up a little bit. So,
well, man, we were completely cold intro right there. So.
Yeah.
For those of you that aren't familiar with Jason, Jason actually has been on YouTube. He has upwards of about 7,000, 8,000 subscribers on there, and he really is a self-made man. He's done everything from drop shipping to self-publishing and everything else in between, affiliate marketing, email marketing. This guy's done it, and he pretty much has made a living at it, and he's able to etch out a lifestyle that he wants. He's able to spend more time with his boy. He's able to do what he wants when he wants on his terms. And so I'm very, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pimp you. Jason served as my mentor over the last couple of years, and I'm very thankful. A lot of the things I've learned in self-publishing, I learned from this guy. Now, not to be confused with my normal crazy banter that I do on self-publishing with Dale L. Roberts. Obviously, he doesn't encourage me to tell people to put spammy keywords into their... so a lot of that stuff's tongue-in-cheek, and if you guys haven't got the joke yet, sorry, you probably never will. But at any rate, Jason's very, he is really good at what he does in self-publishing, and for very good reason. But instead of me sitting here fluffing his ego, why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself? Take it out from the top.
Fluffing my ego, man. That's
That's
the only thing that gets me through the day anymore. No, let me think here. Take it from the top, from like self-publishing, kind of how I got in.
Man, starting out with, you growing up, I would like to know. Did you always think you were going to get into actual publishing at all?
No. Very unlikely that I would have been in publishing, let alone really, thinking back, really any business, so to speak. I didn't, the kind of environment that I grew up in was a very, below middle class home. Parents, my mom and my grandmother raised me. They were both waitresses. My mom ended up going into like an office job. So they weren't like someone who was like, yo, you got to go to Harvard. You need to go to here and there. It was just like, I actually, it was funny as I was thinking about my life growing up the other day. I'm like, man, I never had one conversation about what I wanted to do. Like nobody ever pulled me. Yeah, nobody ever pulled me aside and said, hey man, what do you want to be? What do you want to do? Like there was none of that. So I figured it out relatively early on my own. Well, I hadn't figured it out on my own, but I experimented with a lot of different things.
Such as?
I went to the military. I was in the Army.
Oh, really?
I had a ton of jobs, odd jobs, almost anything. A lot of times I've been an entrepreneur for about 10 years, full-time, working strictly for myself. And, and I had to think, and I tell people like, hey, I've worked this, and this. They're like, you actually had jobs? I'm like, yeah, man. Like I've had quite a few jobs. So that's sort of coming full circle back to self-publishing, and I'm sure we'll get into it a little bit later. I stumbled across it in late 2013, and somehow ended up building a huge publishing business, or relatively huge for me anyway, and then kind of somehow becoming a quasi-expert / guru on YouTube, making one little video, not even really thinking much of it, and it started catching traction, and people liked it, and I started making more and more. And so I sort of, I guess you could say, just stumbled into self-publishing rather than actively, seeked it out or anything.
You weren't actually looking for it. It was just looking through videos.
Looking through videos on YouTube one day. My son was born in September. It was November of 2013. And I was like, man, I want to make sure that I have more money. Babies are freaking not cheap, right? I mean, you got a lot of money to...
Who knew?
Yeah, who knew, right? So I was like, man, I got to figure something out. And actually at the time when I was... it's like almost, you have those moments in your life where you're like, man, I remember exactly where I was. Exactly the moment, exactly. I could tell you almost everything about that when I first saw some of these videos. They popped up on the right hand thing, the suggested thing. 'Cause I must have been looking for like entrepreneurial stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, this is a good opportunity to scale this whole business up. And when I first started, man, I mean, there's a lot of stuff out there now, but man, when I first started, it was like the Wild West, and there wasn't a lot out there.
Yeah.
And so I really had to dig through a lot of stuff to figure out like a system. So, yeah, man, if I can do it, anybody out there watching it can do it, man. I had no clue what I was doing. I wasn't a great student. I wasn't like any type of, scholarly person, but I just worked hard, man. I put up a lot of work, a lot of hours into it to build the business up. So that's
A crazy question. I'm going to go off on different tangents here with you. I want to ask you some things that possibly some people haven't asked you in other interviews. So, what was your first book, and why did you choose it?
So actually, kind of piggybacking on there wasn't a lot of information out there.
Yeah.
My initial thing was, let me write my first book. Let me figure out the process of like writing it, getting the cover done, and putting it onto KDP. Of course, now there's a lot of information, like your stuff, you go over that and all that, and some other stuff. I probably went over that on my channel. But anyway, it's called Dropshipping Made Easy, because I was doing that's kind of before I got into Kindle. I was doing dropshipping, e-commerce, Shopify. So I knew that like the back of my hand. And I know the back of my hand really well. And,
I need a little help with mine.
Actually, the palm, actually. But
high class, people. High class.
Anyway, long story short, so I go into that. I write this book. Probably not the best book. I was being like just super like, I wasn't sure like what was allowed. Like I didn't know if I could put links and hyperlinks and like stuff like that. So like, it was probably not the most resourceful book. I gave some information. I tried my best.
Yeah.
And I wrote the damn thing, threw it up there, and it sold copies. People bought it. It wasn't like a bestseller by any means, but I got the cover done on Fiverr, put it on KDP, and people. I ended up taking it down. I still have it in my bookshelf.
Okay.
But it's still out there. Actually, after this thing, I'll show it to you. But that was my first book. Yeah.
Crazy. Now, there's a lot of questions I typically get. We're going to probably hopefully take each one of them one at a time. And I think one of the things is your first book. Okay, I'm going to try to keep going back to the well on this one, because we got to understand that this is a man that has driven himself from $0 up to as much as $20,000 per month in self-publishing. Listen, guys, this is very, very, very possible. But knowing what the first step is and what this guy's done is almost the most crucial and critical step. You see, he wrote the material. He wrote something he was knowledgeable on, and he felt comfortable in sharing. Yeah. So how long was this? Because some people always get caught up on how long should I write my book? What type of a book should I do? So we've already kind of found out what the type is. How long was that book?
That book was I wouldn't say anywhere from 25 to 30 pages. It was just simple, like, information, a little bit of my backstory I think I put in there.
Okay.
Actually, I'm actually interested to go back there and look at the book now, just because I want to see kind of like what I wrote in there. But no, it was mainly just to, I think oftentimes the most important part of business is just taking that first step. And Tony Robbins talks about this a lot. He says when you have an idea and when you have a plan or a goal, you need to take immediate action on it. Like if we were sitting here right now and you're like, hey man, like we need to start this workout routine, I'd be like, okay, cool. Let's bust out 20 push-ups right now. You know what I mean? Like you have to take immediate action on whatever you're doing to get that momentum going. And so that's what I did. And I had no idea that I was going to be successful at it. I saw the potential, but I didn't know that it was going to get to the heights that it has gone to.
Yeah.
So
how'd you feel when you sold your first book?
I was pretty happy. I actually told a lot of people about it. I told some people at my gym. I told some friends. I'm like, man, I'm doing this. I'm like, oh, what the heck? Ebooks, like whatever. Because now you got to remember, this is 13. Now it's 17. And so, like,
it's entirely plausible now.
Yeah, still back then people understood it, and they, but now it's like, everybody knows that ebooks and things like that. So it's the whole thing. Like, yeah, whatever. And then now people are like, man, like, how are you doing it? What are you doing? Like, and yeah, so it's been pretty cool to watch that whole process go through.
So you got your cover done on Fiverr. So that just ran you about $5.
$5.
That was before they even implemented fees, right?
Yeah, now it's like $5.50, I think, or something.
Right, they tack on a little bit of extra fee, unless, of course, you have the extra, if you do gigs on Fiverr, they won't charge you that.
Oh, extra. Is that right?
I don't know if I ever told you that. Yeah.
I actually used to do gigs on Fiverr. Actually, we can get into that, but that was sort of another whole little side hustle that I was doing at the time too.
That's a good one. Hopefully we can bring that and revisit that point at
Yeah.
some point or another. And if you guys see me looking over to the side, by the way, I'm making sure the tachometer is still working because sometimes the mic dies on me.
Right.
So, but anyway, so you got the cover done. Question for you is: you wrote the material yourself, okay? And of course, you're a very articulate guy. Are you a fast typer? Did you do that on your own?
I mean, I'm a reasonably fast typer. I just did it on my own.
MS Word or what
Pages.
kind of
I use Pages. I have a Mac, so I had one.
A question for you here, because I have Pages and I tend to stay away from this. This is for anybody who has Mac. I have MS Word right now, but I'm afraid to go over to Pages because I'm so used to doing MS Word. How did you convert the documents? Does it save as a doc, or
you can save it as you can save it as a PDF doc. You can save it as like a docx or whatever it is. I forget how I did it. An EPUB, because you can upload EPUBs to.
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Hey, you guys are learning. You get some nuggets here, man. This is good. I did not know this.
Yeah, Pages is pretty. I mean, it's a pretty good program. So anything would work though. Whatever you're comfortable with,
But it saves as EPUB, and that's really nice.
Yeah.
And for those of you out there that actually go out beyond Amazon, which I highly recommend, don't get yourself just fenced into Amazon, because I'm going to tell you that I make money over into Apple. I don't know if I've ever shared that yet. Yeah, through Barnes and Noble, Kobo. I get a fair amount of money there. Is it the same as Amazon? No, but EPUB is definitely an option. And for those of you that have, and I'm looking at a few of you out there, those of you who've been banned off of Amazon, Apple is really, it's a very viable option.
It's
Am
a
I not right?
viable option. Yeah, I think Amazon, the last time I checked, is like 80% of the market share, maybe more. I don't know if you've read any statistics lately on that, like what their ebook market share is.
It was something like that. It's dominating.
It's dominating, but I mean, there's never, especially if you have had issues in your band. I mean, I would totally take everything. If I was banned, I would take everything I had ever done and put it on those other platforms. But
it's kind of crazy because I think that you and I saw a little bit of this. It was actually 1 year ago now. About this time was when the whole 10X thing had blown up. And boy, I think, screw it. Let's go ahead. Let's break some ground. A good friend of ours actually had come up with an idea that he was able to, for lack of better words, and I love my boy, and I'm not going to name any names here, he was able to figure out a loophole in the system that could get the self-publishers more money.
More money, yeah.
It's essentially what it came down to. But a lot of people got their accounts closed down. Why didn't these people just simply take their material and move over to another platform? What is the big hang up with that?
I don't know, man. I guess I can't speak for what they're doing. Laziness, probably, because I think anybody who would like strategically do like the 10X deal where they're doing the manipulation of the system to make more money would maybe lazy. I guess you could classify some of them as. Some of them are intuitive marketers and some of them are really smart. I know a lot of people have done it, but we've talked about this before. It's like, you can make $30,000 in a month doing shady stuff, right? Loophole stuff. But I would rather, and then get your account banned, or clip away, make 1,000, 2,000, whatever, and then eventually over the course of your lifespan, because these books are passive. I mean, they can continuously make you money.
It's true.
The course of your lifespan, make $1 million potentially if you're going to stick with this for the long haul. Then make a quick little plunge. You know what I mean? So it's like play the long game, and is my big thing with publishing. That's the first thing I always talk about, is like protect your account, because Amazon doesn't play around, dude. They don't care, dude. They're growing, man. Like we're small fish, really. So it's like, if somebody's being crazy with what they're doing, they're not going to think twice. Yeah. And you're not ever going to get back on, so.
Yeah, if they consider you a parasite, they're going to literally just
they're going to take you out, man. So I totally.
I just remember our conversation, you and I, talking about the whole 10X, because at that time I was still kind of coaching with you to a certain extent. Yeah. And I was like, asking your opinion on it, and you were just kind of, it's always funny. You're a great measure of whether I should go for something, because sometimes you'll come out and go, no, don't do that.
Right.
But in that particular instance, I knew your indifference kind of was a signal that I was like, maybe I shouldn't do this. Because I was like, what do you think about that? You're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And I was like, are you going to try it? maybe.
Right.
And you never did because it was like, well, it was going to require a lot of effort on your part to do that. And then you thought, even then, it was like, well, everybody's doing it, so something's going to happen. Something's got to give.
Yeah, the way Amazon works, and really any big company, is like they can't make. I mean, it's like turning a freaking battleship, man. It takes a while to get that thing turned around. It's not like a speedboat. They're not a small company, so they know what's going on.
Yeah.
They just have to implement the right, procedures to clear everything up. And so, like, yeah, I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie, dude, or whatever. I'm sure everybody considered it. They see people making $70,000 a month using these loopholes, and they're probably like, dude, I'm gonna do this. But it's like, at the end of the day, man, number one, but I just kept coming back to it. I'm like, man, it's stealing money. You're stealing money. I don't know if everybody knows how the whole procedure worked or whatever, but essentially you get paid on pages read. People were putting a hyperlink. It was clicking you all the way to the end of the book. People were stuffing, like, how many pages were people putting in books? Like 10,000 pages?
It was upwards of 10,000, 20,000, and then they kind of pulled the car over and were like, no more than 3,000 was what I heard.
And so people were getting paid like $150 on one click, and it was just like, you're stealing money from somebody. And it's like Amazon, people didn't feel bad because it's such a big company, but they're still paying you money. You know what I mean? That's how you're getting your money. And so granted, everybody's done dumb stuff in their fucking life, period. I've done dumb stuff. I'm not proud of it. I'm not going to cast stones or, like, judge these people that were doing it.
Yeah.
My whole thing is I've been in the game of internet businesses, eBay, all these other platforms, and they don't play around, dude. And if that's the way you want to, if you want to make your money on those platforms, you have to play by the rules.
Yeah.
You can't go off the map and decide you want to, take these. You can do it, but you're not going to last. They're usually going to get you,
Yeah, we're trying to figure out those loopholes, and I think that's really where it's just that is what burns some people. And and in defense, listen, when I'm pointing one finger at some people, three fingers are pointed back at me because I did test out this theory. However, what would differentiate between what I did and what some other people did was I literally was taking my fitness books, and this is what created a lot of my collections now that actually sell really, really well. But I stopped putting those hyperlinks at the front to where it'd send people to the back.
Right.
But people, and this is what created my number one bestseller, an Ultimate Home Workout Plan bundle.
Right.
It came out of the frustration of I saw all these people taking this method and becoming really good at it and getting lots of money. So I was like, well, let me get into this game too. Well, thankfully, it was at the very beginning of these whole shutting down accounts. Amazon came in, slapped my hand, was like, don't do that. And I tried to play dumb with them, and they were just like,
they don't care,
they were like, look, do it again. Your account shut off. So I literally pulled those hyperlinks out. But here's the nice thing is, out of all the bad came good because I have a book that people love. So I've discovered collections are really something that's really awesome.
Collections are a good way. One thing I never took advantage of was doing a ton of collections. I still might go back and do it, but obviously you're living proof they work, and a lot of people put them together.
They do.
Yeah.
But within reason, though.
Yeah.
I mean, so for instance, one thing that we had discovered, and I'm going to point a figure here because I know that there's one guy out there. Do you know who you are? This guy, let me tell you, he was a real asshat.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pull any punches on this one, and Kelly knows she'll probably start laughing out in the other room here because this clown would get in touch with us, and what the deal was, it was like, he would flip through our books and we'd flip through his books, so of course you're naturally going to get a boost in your rank, and you would get a little extra money in your pocket. Well, this clown was taking things like Minecraft books and he was putting erotica in with it.
Oh.
So he was mixing up things. Whereas, I was keeping all this stuff white hat. I was keeping it, we'll say gray hat since it was the whole 10X method.
Yeah.
But, I was at least keeping fitness books with fitness books. It was, chest and arms workout plan, the, ABC workout plan, the 90-day home workout plan, and I was putting them all very niche specific things. So just know this when you're doing collections, don't try to work the system, because I think this is where I learned this from you, where it's just like, don't work the system. Provide your audience with big value, and they're going to come back for more and more.
At the end of the day, business 101, man. If you put out a good product, you put out something good, man, people are going to come back. And it might take longer to do it the right way, but at the end of the day, man, like, your longevity is more important than a quick buck, So,
what are some other things that you've seen? And I love broaching the subject because I know that you're typically the type of guy that silently sits in the background. I know you are typically popping in and out of some groups, so you typically will see some kind of conversations. What are some other practices that you see that you feel like, yeah, you probably shouldn't do that? And of course, many things have evolved. So over the last couple of years, I'd say.
As far as Kindle and book publishing, obviously, what are some practices, man? Oh gosh, there's so many. It's almost hard to narrow it down. I would say the biggest thing that I see nowadays is a lack of originality. Like you'll see a guy or a girl come out with a book and then like it does well and it's like sharks in the water. You see 30, 40 of those books.
Feeding frenzy.
Yeah, so it's like, so the best way I think to differentiate yourself from the market is to make something that's hard to duplicate, like your brand. No one can do what you do. You know what I mean? Like you're Dale Roberts. You have your own thing. People can make something similar to it, but they can't, you know what I mean? You can't get you off that mountaintop.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but if you just do...
They try.
I'm sure, yeah. You see success and you try to duplicate it, but it's like, you know, Nike, there's a lot of shoe companies that try to compete with them, and they get some market share, but they can't get their whole thing. So that's the big thing is, just the copycat stuff, and I would say that was it. You know, you get into the keyword, people, you know, spamming keywords. Amazon's gone a long way with cleaning some of that stuff up.
They really have.
So they're making everything a little bit more, you know, I guess a level playing field. So, the copycat. What else, man? Jog my memory. I try to stay out of the whole, you know, kind of. Anytime someone's talking a little bit about doing some black hat stuff, I'm like, oh god, I just look the other way. You know?
I notice you just typically don't even.
I don't even engage
involved
in it, man, because it's like, you know, again, my whole thing has always been, if you watch my channel, you watch my YouTube stuff, man, protect your account, do the right stuff, produce good quality content. It might not happen overnight, but eventually it will. I mean, you're living proof, dude. Your stuff, like, you know, is doing great, and you've built up your catalog of books.
Oh yeah. It's amazing, man. See, this is a guy that, you know, I was floundering, and I think you remember this. We met up in Chicago. We were just talking about this earlier. We met up in Chicago, and at that time I was floundering, and sure, I was able to make a few bucks here and there, but ultimately, was I paying all the bills? Not really. It was becoming really, really tough. But maybe share just a little bit, because there's some people that want to have lightning in a bottle. They want to get that one book out. Is there any truth to that lightning in a bottle? Can everybody be able to duplicate that, or does everybody have to kind of do what you've called the slow burn?
Yeah, I mean, you can hit a home run. I mean, there's, you know, for every what's her name, S.L. Gray, or the 50 Shades of Grey woman or whatever.
Yeah.
That's a lottery ticket, though. You know what I mean? You don't want to play the lottery. You want to build a business. You know, if you're watching these videos, like, I would like to think that you're one of the more intelligent people out there educating yourself. It's like, build a business. You know, you don't want to look at this like, I'm going to release one book. A book is a product. A business is a series of products that you can put under one umbrella.
Yeah. So
like what you're doing with your you talk a lot about your fitness brand on the channel?
I talk very, very little about it, but yeah, it's pretty much.
Everybody knows, man. They're gonna get the copycatters, dude. No, for real, with your business, man, it's a.
Don't worry, you can discuss it.
Okay, yeah, it's your fitness business, and it's a series of books that you've put out there that is now a business. If you just have one book, it's a product. So people are like, what niche should I do? What book should I do? It's like, we talk the shotgun approach, you know, like, trying to get everything out there.
Spray and pray.
Spray and pray, man. It's like, you want to build these brands. There's tons of people out there that do it, and they do it right. There's a woman that does like a paleo kind of deal. And you don't have to do it, like, if you want to do it under a pen name and you want to do it kind of anonymously, you don't have to put yourself out there. I know a lot of you guys, you're not like egotistical people like me and Dale, like to be in front of a camera, like want to be behind the scenes. You don't have to. You can, you know, there's a lot of ways that you can get around that. But keeping that train going, you know, keeping that business going.
And quite a bit of your business wasn't even based on your own name.
No, I had a ton of pen names. You know, that's one thing that a lot of people are like, oh, you can do that? I'm like, yeah. If you look at like Stephen King, he's written a lot of books. I don't know exactly. I don't know.
Richard Bachman, I believe, was one of his pen names.
It's got a lot of, and that's a literary thing. Like, people if they want, like Stephen King, if he writes horror movies and horror books, if he wants to do like a comedy book or whatever, he's not going to put it under Stephen King. He's going to put it under another one. So that's the best way I like to do it. Like if I'm doing like, you know, in my business, I would do like a gardening niche. It would be a specific author. And then if I was doing a, I don't know, let's say a fitness thing, I would have like whatever, you know. So
yeah.
Yeah.
So you would literally just build this particular brand around one person and just etch out something around that.
Exactly. Yeah. So, because I mean, like if you think about it, like if you just try to put everything under your name, and you want to do it like I do and scale the business and run like what I like to just call like a publishing company. I don't look at myself as like, hey, I'm just like putting books out there.
Yeah.
I have a book business where I sell books to people. So
hence the self-publishing. You're not just calling yourself an author, you're a self-publisher.
Yeah, I'm just a publisher. Like I have written a few books. Not my real forte, not something I'm very kind of active. I can't really sit down that much in front of in fact, I'm almost ready to go, man. I've been sitting down for 10 minutes, man.
Yeah, he's ready. He's gonna bounce off. Who took the energy drink ahead of time? You or me?
No, I'm drinking this Body Armor thing, man. Sponsored by Body Armor. It's got a lot of vitamins in it. I don't think it's got any caffeine.
You can get some Body Armor by clicking the link in the description below.
It's like a $2.99 affiliate thing, man. You get like 5 cents.
There's no affiliate
link
below. Yeah, we're just
good stuff, though, man.
Yeah. There's something that I also want to kind of just break ground on, and this is something you and I were talking about when we were out just eating supper, was niche.
Yeah.
A lot of people always wonder, okay, you know, because they get hung up on a few things. It's getting out the first book, and of course they get hung up on niches, you know, niche selection. What is it that I mean by niche selection? So let's break it down for the beginners that are probably tuning in, and then what would you recommend to somebody who says, you know, what niche should I get into?
Oh, okay. So niche selection, like I guess we could start it. Like, what is a niche? Well, I mean, like gardening, fitness. What else? I mean, drawing sports, whatever. Cooking, werebears, horror books, whatever. Those are niches, right? So, what would I say to people that were like, "Hey, what niche should I pick?"
Yeah.
I would say typically, if you're just like a flat out person that's never done this, I would try to say stick to something you have a little subject matter knowledge in. So, like. For you, keep using you as an example, fitness. You're a personal trainer. So if you are, now granted, you wrote a lot of your books. I outsourced a lot of my books. So I'm trying to think some of the first niches that I got into. I at first you got to remember, guys, I didn't have a real system. I was doing like everything kind of on my own. I was kind of going rogue, dude. I didn't have a course. I didn't have a lot of stuff. So a lot of random stuff, and then I began to narrow it down. I did a lot of gardening stuff. I didn't have like any specific. Okay, actually, I do remember. I did one of my first big hits, and if you've watched my channel, you know this, like coconut oil.
Yeah,
I was doing a lot of like, and I still like the holistic and like the natural health and stuff. So natural remedies were one of the first things I got into. So I had a little bit of knowledge in that type of stuff. So I would get a book back from a writer. I'd be like, okay, cool. Like this is making some sense. You know? So if you guys are out there and you're like, what niche should I get into? And let's say you're like a guitar person and you want to write like a how-to beginner's guide on guitars, or have someone write that for you. It makes sense if you had a little knowledge going into that, because
you're going to enjoy reading it, of course.
Reading it, you're going to know if it's good or if it's bad. But if you're like, man, I'm chasing this money, I want to go after like some video game niche like Minecraft. People do like Minecraft books and stuff. And it's like, if you don't know anything about, I don't know anything about Minecraft. Me either. I don't even know why people play it.
I'd love to get into it because obviously it's a lucrative business right now.
Yeah, it seems like it's a lucrative business, but it's like, but if you don't know anything about it. So, but then as your business begins to grow and you start having money come in, then you can experiment.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, you can say, oh man, I like...
You and I are definitely in that experimental phase where we have enough working on all those burners that we can take that risk. We can take that risk on time as well as a monetary investment.
I've done books, and what I always tell people too, man, is obviously action is the most important thing you can take. If you're on the fence, like you'll see so many people, man, they just kind of hem-haw around. It's like, dude, get a book out there, and if it does good, it does good. If it does bad, then you're going to have to go back and figure it out.
Yeah.
I did a book one time on medicinal honey. I bet you I was one of the first people to come up with that.
Uh-huh.
There was actually a couple other books. I was doing my research, and there was other like big time publishers that did that.
Yeah.
But I had a book written about honey. It's still on there, dude. And so I was talking to a buddy of mine. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do this book on honey. He's like, what, dude? Who would buy that? And of course, dude, you're a natural health enthusiast. Now you're a vegan. Does your channel know you're vegan?
Probably not. No.
You gotta open up to the channel, man. You gotta get
Listen
to
to him.
this guy. This guy's like a renaissance.
This is getting
man.
edited out.
Nah, dude. A vegan guitar player and
Former pro wrestler.
Former pro wrestler.
Yeah.
Rodeo cowboy. He worked for NASA. No,
Yeah, I wasn't a rodeo person, but I was in NASA.
he was in NASA, man. He's on that mission to go up to Mars in 2000.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, me and Elon, my boy.
Elon.
Sometimes he just tells me to call him Musk.
Now Elon isn't going to go up there. That's what I was listening to this comedian Joe Rogan. He had a thing on. He goes, now you notice the people that build the spaceships don't ever go up to Mars. They're too damn smart. They send other people. They're like, go.
They want to send the chimpanzees
They
out.
want to send the chimps out before they jump into it. Anyway, God, where were we?
Got you off track.
Books. Yeah, so
you were talking about the honey.
The honey book. So that book did really well. That's actually one of my. I think it got up to like 4,000 in the paid store.
Wow, and that's pretty good because you're probably cranking out about like 36 to 48 copies
at
per
that
day,
time.
right?
Probably. I'd have to go back and look, man. It's been a few years, but yeah, it was a ton of copies. And if you notice, the copycat, there's a lot of honey books out there right now.
Oh yeah, hell yeah.
So that whole method is not really that viable anymore. Just kind of copying people. It was, and people were doing it and making money. Now it's more, we're talking about building these businesses up.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You know what I mean? So,
I think that the customers are becoming smart to this.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm trying to say a lot in the videos is, Amazon customers are becoming wiser to that. And they even all ebooks when it comes to that and in paperback, they're starting to understand that there are self-publishers out there that have unscrupulous plans with their money. So
they put a bunch of bad books that are not offering much value, but the market will eventually figure it out and catch up to you and weed you out. Like it's eventual. And I've learned the hard way, man. I think anybody who's done a business, man, has made mistakes. Like there's nobody that's ever flawlessly executed any business plan. And I just known that anytime I've tried to take shortcuts or try to cut corners, eventually it'll catch up to you. So now, as much as I can, I just try to do things as just pure as I possibly can. I try to think about the long-term plan, not just getting paid this month. I want to figure out a way that I can make money for 10 years, and more.
It's the KISS method, keep it super simple. It really is, and I think that's where a lot of people overthink things. It's crazy because my brother actually kind of harasses me. He'll be on his Twitch stream, and he'll go, "How many books have you published today?" But here's the thing: is if anybody would knows me, I'm a workaholic. I know how to systematically go through things, and I can pump it out at that rate. So that is, and I think I learned this from you, where it was just like you figure out something that works, and the exact words that you said to me was when he picked out my one winner, he looked at it, he's looking at a report, and he's like, "What is that?" And I was like, "Well, and I've already probably said this before. It's the 90-day home workout plan, which that thing bobs in and out of #1 bestseller all the time, and it's actually 2 years old now. And here's the funny thing: is he points right at and he said, "Go back to the well on that one, and keep going back to that well on that one, because it means that people like this and they want it." And that's where I really started to hit it. So gosh, the funny thing is, I think I was frustrated at the time with it because I wasn't making any money, and you were just like, you finally just had to just set me down and go, "Look, it's a slow burn." You were like, "It's a slow burn. You can keep going back to the well, but don't expect it to explode." You were like, "Give it 6 months."
Yeah.
6 months on the damn mark, and all of a sudden it just explodes like a son of a bitch, and I go, "Man, you were right." And you were like, "Well, of course, I've been doing this."
But man, there's two things, man. When you talk about going back to the well, it's like a football play. It's like a football coach. If they run a play, keep running until they stop it. You know what I mean? Like if you're running a pass play and the defense can't stop it, keep running it. Keep running that play, because eventually, you might hit that roadblock, but with your business, it's continued to grow. And as far as the time frame thing, I always like to give, when I start a business or I'm doing a project, I like to give myself like for when I did Kindle, when I first got into Kindle, I said, okay, listen, I'm going to give this, because I was brand new. I had no clue. There wasn't a ton of success stories back then. So I said, dude, I'm going to give this. I think I said I want to release 50 books. And at the end of that 50 books, I'm going to look and assess everything. And if I'm not at this certain point, then I'm just going to cut the cord. I still have those books, and I'm sure they'll all be all, fine. But at the same time, like, I'm not going to continue to pour money into something or continue to invest in something that's not getting profits. But
makes sense.
Luckily, so like SMART goals, man, setting that specific time. There's an old adage: if you give yourself enough time, that's how much it's going to take you to get it done.
Yeah.
If you're like, a year from now I'm going to lose weight, well, that'll take you a year. You might do it, or you could say, in 2 months I'm going to lose 30 pounds.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So, man, we've really run all around the board, and I feel like, we could probably go and probably crank out about another hour.
Mm-hmm.
But what we're going to do is just let's wrap it up a little bit. And what I want to kind of do is, if you could speak to yourself back when you first started this, what kind of advice would you give yourself going into this business now?
That's a good one.
Let's say you're coming into this business now. So, former self from 2013... you're coming into this business now. What would you say to you now?
Oh boy, I would probably say immediately put all of your books on CreateSpace and Audible. I would say that. Like if I was speaking to myself at this point, speaking to my 2013 Jason, like you need to put all your books on CreateSpace and ACX, Audible.com. You want to do that. Those two sources have made me a lot of money, and initially I didn't do that. And I probably didn't. Well, I didn't start doing CreateSpace until I was 7 or 8 months after I did anything.
Yeah.
Okay? And then I didn't do audio until probably 1.5 years after I first published my first book.
What took you so long? What was your reservations on it?
I wasn't so much a reservation. It was an ignorance of the marketplace. I was just like, ebooks are the way to go. No one's really buying paperback books, or no one's really buying audio books, and I'm a complete dumbass because I listen to audiobooks all the freaking time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was
you're your own market
I'm
right
my
there.
own market, but I didn't realize the audiobook thing, in my defense, I didn't realize how easy it is to get your book into an audio format.
It's stupidly easy, isn't it?
It's very easy. It's pretty much the same as uploading it to. Now, I'm not talking about recording. That's a whole other ball game.
Yeah.
But if you want someone to narrate your book for you, it's as simple as like uploading to KDP. Like, we can go over that in maybe another video, but yeah, that's kind of my reservation. Like, oh man, I wish I would have been doing this. So that's one deal. And then obviously CreateSpace, I'm just like, people are doing ebooks. They're not going to buy paperback. Well, you obviously know that people buy a ton of paperback books.
Still, it's actually, I think ebooks took a dip back in 2015.
Yeah.
Physical books are still dominant. I think I shared with you over 60% of the market share goes to physical books.
And it will, in my opinion, that will shift. I mean, I still think there'll always be a market for physical books. I mean, there's always that tangible thing in your hand, especially gifts. You'll see it in December. You saw that huge spikes.
Goodness gracious, yeah. That literally surpassed my regular ebook check, which it's not like I'm a slouch when it comes to ebooks. But
you were making more money on
physical books, and I think you and I kind of it was different paths. Where I started in CreateSpace, I didn't touch KDP till I was introduced to your YouTube channel, and that's when I started to consider doing ebooks. Because I was like, who buys ebooks? Whoops.
Yeah. You want to have that approach. So that would have been, I guess that would have been my first thing.
Yeah.
I guess what else would I have told myself? I think I did. I mean, I hate to toot my own horn on a lot of that, but I think I did, especially the first year, man. I was a productivity machine, dude. I was pumping out a lot of books. I was getting a lot of content out there. I would say, one thing I would say is probably some of my first 40, 50 books, I did not have the best writers that I possibly could have had.
Oh.
So I would have said, because I outsource. I went to, the various, freelancing websites, and I hired some people. And a lot of times in the beginning, because my bankroll wasn't very high, I was hiring people at like cut rate cost, dude. I was hiring, non-native English speakers, and I was like, whatever. And then as I began to get more income, then I started hiring native English speaking authors. And so I would say, even if it's a matter of like, hey, I can get 5 books for this much, or I can get 1 book for the same price, go with the 1 book, man. Because if your book sucks, eventually, dude, it will get run off. I mean, not run off, but it'll get like
You'll get
bad
murdered in the reviews, yeah.
and then that you're basically down to nothing. So if you can write one good book, I mean, look at you, right? You've got a bunch of really good books that you've written yourself. You've taken the time out to provide value to these books, you know. Whereas I guarantee there's people that have similar books that are piss poor quality.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That don't have any traction.
I see you.
I see. Yeah, you're out there, right? So. Yeah, man, I think those are really the two things. Get into a group. That would be another thing that really helped me, which I already did that. I was doing that. And limit the distractions. I was dicking around a lot on Facebook and stuff, you know, in these author groups and whatnot. And it's like, those are fine. But at the end of the day, man, like you said, keeping it simple, producing books, putting more quality content out there, and just... at the end of the day, the more books you have, it's a very simple, elementary thing. The more books you have, the more money you're going to make.
It's true.
Especially the more good books you have, you know. So
it's just, you know, it's kind of like baseball. The more times that you can get at bat, the more times you have the ability to hit the ball out the park.
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I mean, you may not be able to hit it out of the park, but you get the practice until finally you will.
That's what Warren Buffett says. He's like, hit singles and doubles.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you, singles and doubles pay my bills.
Yeah, and home run hitters strike out a lot. Now you're gonna get some home runs, man. You're gonna get every 10 books you get, dude. If you keep following these systems and watching Dale stuff and getting these tidbits and stuff, you're gonna hit a home run. And the beautiful part is you don't know, like one of your books, right? We talked about the other day. Who would have thought? You know what I mean?
Good freaking Lord, no.
You know what I mean? Like all the books you did, like would that be the one that has been one of the more successful ones?
Yeah.
You just don't know until you put it out there.
This is so true, and I think that's where it's, you know, hopefully anybody has reservations on releasing some stuff, and you know, and I'm not going to name anybody specific here on this one, and I think that there's, you know who you are, because I'm sure you probably have the same situation, but I have a person in my life that is sitting on a gold mine of short stories, but his reservation is, what if they don't like it? And I just tell him, I'm like, there are going to be people that won't like it, but the thing is I've read it, and it's high quality, great fiction work, and he's stopping himself from doing that. And you just got to get a single, you got to get a double, and every now and then
you got to put it out there, man. If they don't like it, they don't like it. It's not like you're, you know, forcing people to watch your stuff. Like these channels we do, the YouTube, the books, change the channel. You don't like it, you can change it. You know what I mean? Like, so I would tell that guy, hey, look, dude, like put it out there. People might love it, you know? What if people love it? You know?
Yeah. What if you become the next prolific author, like a Stephen King and like a C.S. Eliot? Is that her name?
Lewis? I don't know. I haven't read 50 Shades of Grey. I watch it on an endless loop on my.
Well, we'll go for another erotica author. How about J.S. Scott?
J.S. Scott, yeah.
J.S. Scott. There we go. Yeah, she does a lot of the contemporary romance.
Yeah, haven't delved. No, I know S.J. Scott.
Steve funny. Scott. Yes.
Yeah, Steve Scott. He's a guru. He's another guy, actually. One of the people. I definitely give him a shout out. When I first got into the business, he was doing it still back then.
Oh yeah.
And he wrote a lot of how-to books on Kindle publishing. So that guy,
highly recommended.
Yeah, he's a smart dude. And he's another guy who you want to talk about the blueprint of how to do it. That guy, dude. Like he's.
He released a book not even a couple weeks ago, and it's actually somewhere in the hundreds.
I remember one of the books he read that habit stacking book.
Yeah.
He's like, that book outsold, like the self-publishers, if we could be on the New York Times bestsellers, he'd be like, I would have been on there, because he was selling so many. He was on all these pods. Like, dude, that guy is definitely a true pioneer, I would say, in the self-publishing, especially in nonfiction. So I'm not like you, man. I don't get too far into the cowboy erotica stuff.
So, hey, come on, man. Jeez, I was experimenting in college.
Yeah, you know, man. The rodeos. I know the rodeo stuff led you over to that.
Yeah,
the astronaut stuff, man.
Listen, when I say I did self-publishing, man, I've done everything, guys. I've done everything. So the thing is there's some people, I think, and they might even do this for you. They might just go over and look at your particular work, but they don't keep in mind that you probably have hundreds of books, not even within your name, much less underneath your brand name.
Yeah, definitely.
That no one's going to be able to track that. And that's the thing is, you can't simply measure somebody's success or how much they're making based on just, what you see outwardly. Because I've got other books outside of my own name.
Yeah, that's what's beautiful about it. Like, just because he writes his own stuff doesn't mean he can't also do the outsourcing. So it's not like you have to like black and white, like you can only do one or the other. Like you can do both. You know what I mean? Like it's totally available to you. And so, yeah, man, that's a good point. That's a really good point.
Yeah. I think it's probably a perfect time for us to go ahead and wrap things up. I really do appreciate you. Actually, he's drove all the way from Indiana out here to Central Ohio.
You know, you made it to the big time when you're in Columbus, Ohio, on a Friday night.
Yeah. Woo! Yeah, baby. So.
No, I like it out here. It's cool.
Any last words?
No, I appreciate you guys watching the channel, man. Make sure you subscribe to this dude. He's been putting out some high quality content. I remember when you first were talking about doing YouTube, man, and like, actually, your first videos, and then like to where he's at now, it's like an MTV production, man. The fact that you get to watch his quality content for free, man, is cool. So definitely like his stuff, subscribe to it. Send him checks. Blank checks is cool too. Send me a blank check if you want to.
Send it to him.
I'll donate it.
Yeah, and I'll get whatever he has left over.
No, so I appreciate you guys watching, man. Definitely check my channel out, Jason Bracht. You can just type my name in. I'm sure you can put a link down there.
Yep, we'll put a link in the description down below. Like yeah, definitely.
Cool.
Well, awesome, very good. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Until later, I'm Dale R. Roberts for Self Publishing. See ya.
Who writes this goddamn dribble?